Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Fractal Standard number 18. It is 3:20 right now, which means it is time for the afternoon beer. Oh, son of a bitch, that's the wrong gadget. You know, I'm just Russian scum. What
Handed over to scum, who are beholden to scum! Russian scum! Resist!
do
Peace!
I know? So I was just perusing, various articles and things, which is what I do to get ideas for this show, which is a daily variety show. That's an offshoot off of my main website, fractaljournal.com, where you'll find stories, ideas, and more. Now, one of the things I saw that I wasn't able to read was something about Bernie Sanders in Russia and how Russia does not want Bernie Sanders, but it wants chaos. And I think one of the subheadings was Russia wants to kind of tug at the places in democracy where there's tension. Okay, first of all, Russia functions more or less since the collapse of the Soviet Union along democratic lines. Probably, honestly, along more democratic lines than the United States does, due to the fact that the United States is run entirely by corporate interests and your elections have been largely irrelevant for the past few decades, no matter the intentions of the presidential candidates involved. That's not a conspiracy theory. You can look that up. That's not a reason to despair and give up on the idea of lawful government, but it is food for thought. So we have problems with oligarchs in Russia as well. And when I say we, really I don't belong to the Russian camp. I belong to the American camp, but I am originally Russian. I came here when I was 8 years old. And yeah, hell, when I was about 23, 24 or so, I just got fed up with kind of everything seemed boring and dull. And even though I was already wise to the fuckery of the military-industrial complex, I decided to try to join the Navy. So what happened there was I did well on the ASVAB, and they seemed, I'm physically fit, always have been. They seemed eager to take me, but obviously I didn't serve in the Navy due to something about them looking up something from my past, and I had anxiety disorder or whatever. But I have a story related to that on why that aspect of it's stupid, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the recruiter, and one of the things, in the application process is, why are you interested in serving the United States Navy? And I said, to defend the United States Constitution. And the recruiter goes, well, the Constitution is just a piece of paper, right? Something along those lines. I shit you not. So, there we go. I mean, how else would that attitude make its way into the head of a military man that is supposed to be protecting a country whose entire existence and essence depends upon the Enlightenment philosophy and the document that it manifested, namely the Constitution, if there's this flippant Bushian worldview about it? And Bush is a rich oligarch. He comes from basically an American royal family, and he's also another one who called the Constitution a piece of paper. So I tell that story to kind of reveal the machinations of this country and how silly it is that, Russia is a threat to democracy. No. Your democracy is under threat from entirely internal sources. Our democracy, our democratic republic, I should say, because we do not operate in a pure democracy, nor would we want to. Nobody wants mob rule. That's not a good thing. But yeah, I'm in love with this chick that wrote this article called Molly. She's just great. She understands what's wrong with the world. So it's about corporate speak, and it's the new kind of corporate speak that's going on, that's described as garbage language. And here's a few choice snippets. She talks about Weir, one of her people that she interviewed, describes watching her peers attend silent meditation retreats, take LSD, discuss stoicism, and practice Reiki at parties. She tries ecstatic dance, gulps nootropics, and accepts a cautious, fully clothed back massage. from her company's in-house masseuse. She encounters a man who self-identifies as a Japanese raccoon dog. Furries. She's a participant and an ethnologist. She's impressed and revulsed. Yikes. So this is basically the advent of the Eloi. All of these activities have nothing to do with the work, and their fanciful, crazy nature is not something that comes out of people who are well versed in working, in actually producing something that has merit. What do I mean by that? Well, something that is tangible. They don't produce like even a book or a product. One of the things that I was just reading about on Wired, I think it was like data visualization. So that's basically making graphs on things. It's completely like just garbage language, like this says. Not jargon, because jargon implies, usefulness. But data visualization, what? I'm in a startup that does data visualization. This is non-work defined. And it's creeping everywhere onto churches. So frontline is one of these buzzwords, one of these garbage language words. And one of the recent seminar type things that I attended at my granddad's church was called Fruitfulness on the Front Lines. And it was run by a guy that was basically dressed in neo-corporate chic with kind of the thin slacks and the rockabilly jackets. And it's like, oh, God. So let's read another quote. People used a sort of non-language, which was neither beautiful nor especially efficient, a mashup of business speak with athletic and wartime metaphors, inflated with self-importance, calls to action, front lines and trenches, blitz scaling. Companies didn't fail, they died. She describes a man who wheels around her office on a scooter, barking into a wireless headset about growth hacking, proactive technology, parallelization, and the first mover advantage. It was garbage language, Weir writes, but customers loved him. So parallelization is basically doing two things at once. Why would you just not call it multitasking? Multitasking is something you generally do anyway. Oh, Lord. So this just supports my idea that the suspicion I've had for a long time. There's a whole class of people out there who get paid extravagant amounts of money to do non-work, which is obfuscated, which is ennobled by this garbage language. It gives it kind of, by obfuscated, I mean it's wearing clothes that hides the nature of its thin, frail, shitty, corpse-like nothingness beneath the sharp pantsuit. Sweet Jesus. Let's talk about the future of work, since we're seeing these non-jobs proliferate. And one of the things that was mentioned in that article by the lovely Miss Molly, God, I love that chick. That article was so good. I kept on reading it. I'm like, this is exactly what I've been thinking. And I'm just glad, because the conversations I've had with women over the years, they seem to eat this shit up. But this broad, she fucking gets it. Call me. All right, so Gabrielle is a professional transcriber. We're moving on to AI, since, these are non-jobs. And eventually, in my opinion, non-jobs like this will be replaced with AI faster, because it's a lot harder to automate processes that require physical dexterity. So, the truck drivers and this and that are going to get, I don't know about that. But transcription is something that isn't going to go away, but it's going to become less of a lucrative position. Here is why. Gabriel is a professional transcriber, and for years, he earned a middle-class living. In the early 2000s, he'd make up to $40 an hour transcribing corporate earnings calls. He'd sit at his desk, knock it out for hours, using custom keystrokes, and watch the money roll in. I sent my son to private schools and university on transcribing, he tells me. It was a nice life. And this is the early 2000s, which to me doesn't seem that far away, but holy fuck, that was 20 years ago. But in the past decade, how long was this shit written? Okay, 2020. Past decade. The bottom fell out. As audio recordings went digital and broadband spread, clients could ship work to India and the Philippines. Meanwhile, buzzy Silicon Valley startups emerged like Rev, a sort of Uber and 800-pound gorilla of the transcription world. It has moved the industry toward an on-demand gig model. Since Rev charged customers a flat rate of $1 per audio minute, less than half what transcription firms historically charged, Gabriel's pay sank even further. On top of it all, AI started nipping away at the industry, with machines now able to rapidly transcribe some audio as well as humans do. Today, Gabriel clears $12 an hour if he's lucky. Some of his peers make $6. Starbucks would be a step up. So the takeaway, there we go, I'm using the buzzwords. Change is murky and weirder than you might expect. For example, demand for transcription has actually exploded in recent years. It's big across every area, says Jill Kushner-Bishop, who runs Multilingual Connections, a Chicago transcription and translation firm. Why? Because audio is easier than ever to capture via our pocket computers, so people are recording ever more meetings. Plus, video and podcasting has become the dominant form of rhetoric. Daily communication is increasingly multimedia, right here, right now. But multimedia is cumbersome. We still can't search the contents of video or audio very well, so we need to transcribe it. We're in this world where we're overwhelmed by spoken word that's recorded and piles up and up, says Jeffrey Kaufman, the CEO and founder of Trent, an AI transcription firm. Gutenberg would savor the irony. The growth of the shiniest new media has made the dustiest text ever more relevant. Now, theoretically, this exploding demand would drive up the price of labor, right? Except that globalization and the gig business model have exploded the supply of workers. Exactly. So we got these overseas laborers, and even though there's more work, they're the ones taking it up. Much as with Uber, Rev made it so easy to start transcribing that many more folks now do it as a side hustle. So Rev is this organization that you can kind of work for that, charges this flat fee. They give a lot of people opportunity, which is cool, as one Rev transcriber told me, and as most gig companies do. Rev seems obsessed with making things simple and frictionless for the customer, hence the sweet flat rate of $1 per audio minute. But a low rate winds up screwing the worker. This fall, Rev abruptly dropped its pay for some content to 30 cents per audio minute, which works out to a bleak income of perhaps $4.50 an hour. Ouch. As this story was going to press, Rev announced the rate it charges customers would go to $125, but did not specify a higher base pay rate for transcribers. So, hey, you might be thinking by this point, aren't all these machines going to destroy these jobs anyway? Not yet. Despite all the deep learning hype, AI struggles with the messiness of reality, background noise, crosstalk, non-Western accents, all tend to flummox transcription. AI. It could take a very long time to get over that hump. Humans disambiguate bad audio by grokking the context of the conversation, by deploying common sense. Today's AI is no good at that, and AI experts are still figuring out how to engineer it. Blah, 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 blah. So, the next time you ponder the future of work, AI doesn't always win. Tech and today's shark-like gig work business models don't always destroy jobs. They just make them a lot more likely to suck, as in unsustainable as an economic vehicle to support any kind of even base lifestyle. And that's why, I'm highly skeptical of all of these claims that the economy is doing good and improving. And I'm also highly skeptical of all of this sort of entrepreneurial startup culture, because what are you actually building? Is it a very tangible product, or does it do something that we already know how to do and that's already going out the window due to this sort of new work climate wherein we have these, gig economy companies and we have AI? How can you really track, economic performance based on that? There's just so many new variables and metrics to take into account. And It certainly does not bode well for those nerds, those Eloi. You know, the Eloi are that race of people from H.G. Wells' The World is a Time Machine, where he goes forward in time 1,000 years to a dystopian future where half the people are these kind of lumbering, kind of gorilla-like pale creatures that live in wells underground and eat the Eloi for sustenance. And the Eloi are these kind of childlike people that are involved with inanities that are just kind of soft and frail and blonde and pretty. So just a bunch of valley girls basically running around. And, all of this kind of culture of these Reiki massages and things comes from Silicon Valley. So we're seeing literally the rise of the Eloi and the death of work, which is really going to compound that problem by creating a bunch of Morlocks that are then forced to deliver their shitty Amazon packages to people who don't fucking contribute anything to the economy but get all the tasty fruits of it somehow, just because they're in the right place at the right time. Somebody around them, or they're in an area where they're able to use this relatively simple technology that multiplies your your capacities, that was built for you by other people. Like most of this shit, like when they talk about tech startups, they're not talking about people that are creating like a new cell phone or some kind of new high-tech gadget or even some kind of very complex program. No, these are just kind of tweaks and often uses of templates to facilitate or make the appearance of facilitating some kind of business or interpersonal process, and then it's sold at a small rate to lots and lots of people. And because it uses technology somewhere in the process, it's a tech startup and creates this illusion that we're this high-tech, fast-paced world of these rising superstars of technology, and we start to ignore kind of real jobs and real production as a process. And man, the future of work looks weird. I'm not a pessimist. I'm just saying this is something that bears paying attention to. Pardon my kind of meanderingness, but I am always fucking pressed for time. I'm always thinking of the next thing that I have to do because, I got a house and I got fucking family responsibilities. And but as I get used to this, as I become better at capturing these ideas over time and reading through these articles and putting two and two together, these should get better. Thanks for bearing with me. If you like what you hear, if you'd like to be around for when this improves past this kind of shitty initial stage, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, helps me out tremendously on YouTube. Again, my main website is fractaljournal.com, where you'll find stories, ideas, and more. Thanks so much for listening, and take care, everybody.